Aperture is how wide open the lens is and how much light it takes in. It also affects your bokeh and depth of field.
Your aperture is measured in f-stops.
If your aperture is at a low f-stop, you will have a shallow depth of field, but a higher f-stop, you'll have a deeper depth of field. Also, if you have a higher f-stop, the lens has a smaller opening and less light is let in. If you have a lower f-stop, your lens is more open and more light is let in, therefore helping you determine your exposure.
Some pros are you can control how much blur is in the background of your picture, and it will help you change your exposure to your own preference.
And some cons are, if you change your f-stop, you'll have to adjust all of your other settings.
Shutter speed is how long the shutter stays open, which determines how much light is let in.
Your shutter speed is measured in seconds.
If your shutter speed is low, 1/15 of a second, you will have more motion blur, which means you will be able to see the motion in the picture if your subject is moving. If your shutter speed is high, it will take out the motion blur and focus on your subject. Also, with a faster shutter speed, it will make your pictures darker if you are in a bright environment because it lets less light in, and vice versa for the fast shutter speed.
Some pros of being able to control shutter speed would be that you could give your photo more or less motion blur depending on what you want.
Some cons of manual shutter speed would be that if you change the shutter speed on your camera, you also have to adjust all your other settings.
ISO is how much light hits the sensor to brighten the picture.
If your ISO is at a number like 100, it lets less light in on the sensor. If your ISO is at 800 or something like that, your picture will let more light in and the picture is brighter.
ISO can affect your exposure by making your picture darker or brighter depending on your number.
Some pros are you can make your picture brighter if you are in a dark area.
And some cons are, if your ISO is too high, it can make your picture grainy.